Mr. City Manager, we're ready for open study. Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, good evening and thank you. With us tonight are Tyler Waldorf and April Snee from Shockey Consulting, who will present the final draft of the comprehensive plan. Go to it, Tyler.
Good evening, Council. Thank you very much for having us this evening. April and I are very excited to be here tonight at this stage in our planning process with you all to present the draft comprehensive plan. You should all have a copy of the plan in front of you, and so what I'd like to do is just kind of walk through that with you this evening and kind of remind everybody of how we got here and kind of all of the input we received to really formulate what we're presenting to you all this evening. So with that, really, what are we hoping to achieve tonight? Like I said, really looking at this complete draft of the 2022 Gladstone Growing Together Comprehensive Plan. And to do that, we really want to kind of start with an overview of the planning process, the community engagement, kind of remind everybody of what some of those key themes and highlights have been from this process. And kind of demonstrate how all of that has really led to some of the key future planning concepts that are outlined in the plan. And then, of course, at the end, kind of close with any questions and then a discussion for kind of what we understand are the next steps for adoption. I know a lot of this information may be you've heard before in some of our workshops with you all and presentations, but hope you'll kind of stick with us through that as we kind of try to tie everything together and really tell the story of the comprehensive plan and its form today. So just as a reminder, the comprehensive plan is, as you all know, a really important document for your kind of look to the future. And so the 2022 comprehensive plan will supersede your existing 2008 comprehensive plan. But in an exciting way, it really continues on the footsteps of the transformational aspiration from the 2016 Gladstone Shaping Our Future initiative that you went through several years ago. And so we've really tried to build kind of that momentum and bring a lot of that energy and excitement about what the future of Gladstone looks like. And so to do that, this plan establishes a new 20-year community vision, which we worked with not only all of you on, but also the community, as a way to responsibly guide your future in terms of development, growth, and redevelopment. This comprehensive plan will really serve as a decision-making tool and roadmap for you as council, but also as your planning commission as opportunities come your way into the future. And then, of course, the very kind of technical nitty-gritty, we have a number of goals and strategies and local actions that really will help give the city staff the necessary implementation tools from kind of that day-to-day level. You might remember that we started out the process really evaluating all of your current planning initiatives. And so I just wanted to kind of set the stage and remind everybody that the comprehensive plan really will serve as that overarching framework for everything that you already have going on. The intent is to make sure that those documents are supported and continued through this effort. And so just kind of highlighting some of those that I know are top of mind for everybody. Of course, the Citizen Satisfaction Survey from a couple years ago, your budgets, capital improvement programs, and annual financial reports marry into this. And of course, your kind of public safety, police, fire, and emergency operations plans, facility plans, so on and so forth. And then, of course, I don't want to leave out, your efforts around community for all ages, and I'll touch on that in a little bit as well. The other thing that I think is important to note with this alignment is a number of recommendations that are outlined in the implementation matrix really do stem from some of your current initiatives and conversations we had with staff at an early on stage in the process. So tonight, really, this is about how all of this has come together to really tell the story of your future and kind of how that looks moving forward. So you may remember, Council, that we started out with some activities related to trends, and we did that with a number of our stakeholder groups. And I think one thing that's really important to note is that those trends are very true here in Gladstone. And so I kind of want to set the stage with how these trends and things that we're seeing related to your demographic really started to shape our thought process and a lot of our conversations with the stakeholder groups. So I think first and foremost, Gladstone is growing. Between the decennial census of 2020 and the last one done in 2010, your population has grown by about 6.5%. And you can see that's greater than the state of Missouri, not quite as great as Clay County, of course. But I think this is an important context for a lot of our discussions. So you are fortunate, I feel like, in many ways that this is a good problem to have. People are wanting to come to Gladstone, and we heard that in a lot of our stakeholder engagement. And so there's a lot that's really an attractor to people here, to your community. Oh, sorry, wrong way. We also know, though, that Gladstone is getting older, and so you can see in our census and American Community Survey data, between that same decade, your average age increased by over 7%. And so you can see in some of the infographics, which are you might remember from our early snapshot, Gladstone does sit slightly higher than the county and the state and even national averages for that median age. And so kind of thinking about what does that mean for the community? What does that mean in terms of how do we address some of the issues around housing, transportation? And so you'll see this theme throughout. Also, obviously, like I mentioned, important to notice that you already have a firm commitment to being a community for all ages, and you've been recognized with the gold level for that. And so continuing those efforts and making sure that that remains at the forefront of the efforts moving forward. We also know that Gladstone is getting more diverse, and so we've provided just a few statistics here, again with that same kind of 2010 to 2020 comparison. Your white non-Hispanic population actually did decrease slightly, and some of your minority populations, the Hispanic and Latinx communities, the Black or African Americans, have all seen an increase, some of them doubling and nearly tripling. Now, I know from a pure numbers standpoint that may be small, but I think that is something important to highlight, and you'll see kind of how this plays out in a lot of what we heard around diversity and equity moving throughout the plan. So from a community engagement standpoint, I think it's really important to highlight that this is not our plan as the consultants, right? This is your plan, and it's really important that the document that's shared with you all this evening it's important to note that this is really a plan that was shaped by your stakeholders and your community. We hopefully just simply facilitated that process and really were able to put into action a lot of what we heard and learned throughout the process. So, from an early start of our engagement, which really kicked off in January of this year, our goals here were to make sure that we were actively informing, engaging, and consulting stakeholders at all levels throughout this process. And April will go into this a little bit more here shortly, but really the goal was to achieve a cross-sectional representation reflective of your community demographics. And for us, that was the measure for which we kind of related the engagement efforts and the quality of the responses received. Also, it's important that this comprehensive plan reflects your values as a community and really addresses the priorities and needs that we heard throughout this process. And then lastly, building that public understanding, ownership, and support that not only it was important to have throughout the planning process, but maybe more importantly will be important as you continue through this process and to ensure effective implementation. So really making sure that the community understands the importance of this document and really kind of working together as you all continue to implement. Obviously, our stakeholders, these were kind of, I would say, the primary groups, yourselves, of course, and then working closely with the Planning Commission and Advisory Committee. All of your boards and commissions were brought along through the process in various ways, city leadership, and then a few community groups, which April will talk a little bit more in specifically. And then, of course, last but definitely not least, your community at large, including all of your residents, businesses, and frankly, even visitors, people who come to Gladstone to shop or what have you. So I show this process diagram not to bring back any sort of, PTSD about how many meetings we engaged with you on, but more as a way to really highlight that our process intended to have a checks and balance throughout the way. Not every stakeholder group could be involved in every last detail and aspect of the comprehensive plan, but really making sure that as different groups were developing different parts of the plan and having input on different parts of the plan, there really was that checks and balance between all of the groups. One of the primary groups that we really did lean on, and I do mean that, was our advisory committee. And this group consisted of 15 community members, most of whom were your planning commission, but also including multiple members of the community at large. And really their role throughout this process was multifaceted. First and foremost, really representing the Gladstone community voice throughout this process. So any input we received, they were asked to provide that perspective, not just their own. They supported the community engagement efforts throughout the process, whether that was handing out flyers or just encouraging their neighbors and friends to get involved. They also provided in-depth insight related to redevelopment opportunities and priorities, which we'll talk about. They truly had an impact on shaping the goals and strategies, developing the future land use, and as I mentioned earlier, this group will really serve as kind of your cheerleaders or champions as you continue in the implementation phase. So just a couple, photos here to just illustrate the group in action, whether it was evaluating goals and strategies or perhaps doing some of those land use activities. We really tried to engage them in an interactive way to allow them to kind of come with their best thinking, and I have to say I think you guys are very fortunate to have such a group involved. They were participatory, insightful, and truly vested in this process. And because this is recorded, I will also say quite a good-looking group. So, you're very fortunate there. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to April to talk a little bit more about the rest of the engagement.
Thank you, Tyler. So yeah, I'm just going to go over some of our promotional efforts and how we got the community at large to get involved. As Tyler said, this is a super crucial component of the plan to make sure that we are getting a diverse representation, an accurate representation of your community, and to just get that community support, which will make it easier on everyone implementing the plan. So we did a number of community stakeholder e-blasts, so big emails out to everyone, everyone who was registered to receive those, and I'll get into those numbers in a moment. The Gladstone boards and commissions, neighborhood leaders, we got on the community center mailing list, so they sent out to their contacts as well as the chamber. We also did 2 articles in each of the Gladstone magazines that went out to every household, as well as social media platforms. We consistently posted on those to update on any events in our each survey that we had out. A number of kind of concentrated advertisements that we focused on. We had a bunch of yard signs at the Walk and Wag, Summer Blues Fest, the 4th of July celebration, Theater in the Park, and the Linden Square concert series to sort of meet people where they are if they're not receiving the email blast or say not on social media. We wanted to make sure we had an appearance at those popular events you all have. As well as sort of the visual representation we had throughout the community, we did have the yard signs as well as a few banners. The banner was at City Hall and the community center. We had yard signs out at, again, places where a lot of people tend to just go on their own. So that included the parks and trails. We also, as Tyler mentioned, and as I mentioned previously, we really wanted to make sure that we had a diverse and accurate representation of Gladstone participating, and so we did ask some demographic questions in our surveys, which I'll get into, but some of the things that we did to sort of heighten those numbers that maybe we were missing, hard to reach areas, were including flyers at bus stops and the library. We also wanted to make sure people in apartments were aware of, the plan, and we also targeted some specific restaurants, churches, and laundromats to sort of reach some people that we were missing initially. So our website launched in January of 2022, and it did close this July, so it's not going to be open until next summer. But this is where participants or the community could register and find all the information related to the plan, including the surveys. And here's where we get to some numbers. So total, those registered participants who signed up to receive email blasts on the process was 335. And then you can sort of see a breakdown of the different surveys that we asked. So the biggest one was the Community Vision Survey. We also had a forum where people could it was kind of an open-ended forum if they had any big ideas for the future of Gladstone. We also had quality of life, neighborhoods and housing, which was really popular, transportation, the natural environment, and resilient economy. And so those are each of the chapters that you see in the plan. So here's where we get to those demographics, and what I'm showing today is based on the Community Vision Survey, just because that's the one that had the most respondents. And you can see we asked about age, and we do hit all age groups pretty well. The ones that were a little tougher to get were 19 and under and 85 plus, but you can see that all of the other numbers were actually overrepresented, so that was good to see. We also asked about race and ethnicity, and you can see, again, we do make sure to touch on all categories here in that category. Another one that we looked at is just geographically, so making sure that we have touching on people from all parts of Gladstone, so you can see one thing that got improved from our extra efforts was on that eastern side where we targeted some apartment complexes and was able to sort of fill in a bit of a gap over there. Then our big community event was an interactive community event that we had open for May 24th to June 3rd, and that was in the Gladstone Community Center. And it was a really great opportunity for anyone to come and go, so it wasn't, a certain time. It allowed people to, stop by and provide their feedback based on their busy schedules. We also did have some great youth participation in this, so that kind of helped with our 19 and under, but wasn't easily documented. But we had a visioning activity, some goal prioritization, mapping activities, as well as paper copies of the survey and comment cards if people had any general comments about the plan. Here you can see our great children participation. This was kind of a, they could draw what the vision meant to them or just what they thought about Gladstone. We also had some other really cute kid ideas, and also there's somebody I think on here who was 72 that participated in the coloring activity. So universal here, but and then we sort of collected everything in this kiosk to be put into our plan process. Here's some more pictures just to see kind of the setup. It was right in the entrance, so you couldn't really miss it if you came in the community center. And so, like Tyler mentioned, we had a number of stakeholder meetings with the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club, and then we had a couple different opportunities for the boards and commissions as well as neighborhood leaders to provide their input on the planning process, and they were really very helpful in getting this information out to all of their contacts and groups as well. And here's just a picture to kind of show one of those neighborhood and board and commission meetings. We had a pretty good turnout, and like I said, they were very helpful in providing their own connections and really boosted our survey responses, so that was really great. Then I'll hand it back to Tyler to sort of summarize our overall themes that we heard.
Thanks, April. So I just want to, set the stage a little bit from all of those engagement efforts in kind of what were some of the things we heard. And a lot of this is not news, not only to you throughout this process, but I know this is stuff that has probably been front of mind for many and for you as well in your roles. And so, I think one of the biggest things to highlight is time and time again, we heard that your residents and businesses really do enjoy a high level of city services, and that's really important. And so a lot of what we talk about in the local actions is continuing those efforts and building upon those where we can. Improving walkability and connectivity, expanding amenities, the whole notion of kind of redevelopment and revitalization of some of the major corridors, which I know has been a topic at hand for quite some time. And then back to some of the, getting more diverse, really making sure that the community feels like that diversity is embraced and kind of really kind of throughout everything. And then safety top of mind for many as well, and continuing the efforts of the police and fire departments there. So all of that really helped draft the initial community vision, and so I just wanted to remind everybody of, in 20 years, our welcoming, diverse, safe, and affordable neighborhoods and revitalized commercial corridors attract all to Gladstone. Our engaged residents' commitment to innovation, quality services, great amenities, and central location really do drive Gladstone's vibrant future. And so you can already start to see some of what we've been talking about really kind of brought through these different components of the plan. Equally with the goals here, there are 10 goals that really set the stage for this, and I will read them quickly. But providing the highest quality of life to everyone in our community, being a healthy community for all generations, providing the highest level of safety for all, ensuring our neighborhoods are the highest quality and offer diverse housing choices for all, provide a connected, safe, and equitable transportation network for all modes, ages, and abilities, provide the highest level of city services and facilities for all residents and businesses, maintain infrastructure systems to support the needs of future generations, preserve our natural resources and protect our environment to enhance resiliency and meet the needs of future generations, ensure Gladstone's economic resiliency to support prosperity for all residents and businesses, and lastly, enhance our downtown district and commercial corridors. So those really do set the stage and overall structure for what kind of comes next, and this is where I'll get into some of the details here. So the plan is really structured around 6 topical chapters, which April mentioned, and I'll go through here shortly. Have just read the 10 goals, and then from there we get into the details. So there's about 23 strategies, 211 local actions, 28 land use policies, and 43 performance measures. Now, I read those not to intimidate anybody because those are large numbers, but really I think it's important to realize that this is the toolkit for you all to use, as I mentioned earlier, and it really does attempt to set up city staff as well to have the tools at hand to really move through the implementation process and make sure this isn't just a static document, but really is kind of one that is serving the community in the way it's intended. So very quickly, the 6 chapters really break down into community identity, safe and healthy community, built environment, the natural environment, resilient economy, and current land use. So we had extensive conversations with staff. Obviously others were involved throughout the process, but really to get a true understanding of kind of what are the existing conditions around these topics. And so in the plan, really that provides that background information, and interspersed with that are a lot of the comments we received by the community in the engagement efforts, and really that kind of sets the stage, if you will, for kind of the recommendations that come later in the plan. And so I'm not going to read through all of these, but I do want to just kind of highlight that, a lot of what we heard, you guys have a great system for community events, and I'm sure this is no surprise, but everybody always wants more, right? When it's going well, people want more, and so there is a desire for that. In terms of kind of what is keeping and attracting residents here, going back to that population growth perhaps, the idea of increasing local arts, culture, shopping, and entertainment options came up. Safety is ranked as the community's second greatest strength, so doing, making sure that those efforts are ongoing. Obviously, youth participation shown in engagement is always a struggle, and I think continues to be for many communities, even outside of Gladstone here. And so thinking through how do we reach youth in ways that may get them involved in more processes. And then highlighting some of the valuable amenities, your hiking, biking, and trails, your neighborhood parks and playgrounds, and of course your community center. From the housing standpoint, a lot of our conversation stemmed around improving neighborhood infrastructure to make sure that the neighborhoods that you have that people really do cherish have the reinvestment, whether that's in the housing stock themselves or just in the overall infrastructure. And thinking through that, how do we ensure that quality housing, maintenance and repair assistance, management of absentee landlords, and proactive code enforcement kind of bubbled to the top there. But thinking 20 years out, what's the type of housing that we want, and how does that help attract who we want to see? So families, making sure that the housing accommodates all stages of life. And that was a lot of discussion in so many of our stakeholder meetings, making sure that your kids can come back here and afford to live here, or kind of your more senior residents have the ability to transition as needed to different housing types. And so you can see kind of how do we achieve that? Well, it is housing that allows seniors to age in place, and perhaps smaller single-family homes on smaller lots, or even just ensuring that price points allow for that first-time home buyer. Another conversation that came up in the engagement was around accessory dwelling units, and kind of thinking about if that was something to be entertained, what might that look like? Some of them, the two top strategies were more related to interior conversions, so perhaps either an attic or basement conversion, or an above garage unit. So those kind of were the top two responses there when looking at alternative or innovative housing options. From a transportation, a lot of it stemmed, we talked a little bit earlier about connectivity, but making sure that the maintenance of existing infrastructure really provides that safe and kind of multifaceted mode of transportation, safety, and then interestingly, kind of that the need or overuse of cars, and how do we combat that, right? Everything that we plan for is so car-centric, and so I think that speaks to people's desire to have that stronger connection from neighborhoods to parks, neighborhoods to commercial, and really making sure that biking and walking is top of mind when we're looking at projects. So to that extent, sidewalks, pedestrian crossings, that sort of thing. Again, just kind of from an economic standpoint, what are the types of things that people want to see here? And this will come up later. But that restaurant, retail, entertainment, and then back to the aesthetics and kind of notion of revitalization. But also, environmental considerations were really important, and kind of the idea of preserving some of the natural areas and habitats that you have within the community, and kind of making sure that that's considered as new developments or redevelopment come down the road. So obviously we also focused on your current land use as a way to start thinking about, okay, how do we bring all of this together in a way that provides the physical planning necessary? And so again, probably no surprise whatsoever to you all. Majority of Gladstone is that single-family residence, and so you do have a percentage acreage and parcels that really are dedicated to that kind of missing middle housing, that duplex townhome, kind of what we refer to as medium density residential, and then of course, as you know, your higher density apartment complexes. But I think you know, the fact that you are a bit landlocked, right? You have limited open space for growth, and so this is where I think the idea of how do we really focus on the notion of redevelopment and revitalization to achieve a lot of what we're talking about. And so this is just comparison there for that. And a little context, this is just to kind of show you in a map form what that looks like and where those land uses are dispersed throughout the community. Of course, with the blow up of downtown, and I'll talk a little bit more specifically about that as we get into the future land use. But first and foremost, you know, we really wanted to focus on how do we structure our thoughts around land use. And so on page 62 and 63 of the document in front of you is really the outlined 28, I think, land use principles that I mentioned. And we did a lot of work with the advisory committee on this, and really started with the land use principles from your current comprehensive plan, and making sure that we have an evaluation of what's working, what might be no longer needed, and starting with that point. And really, these land use principles are what will guide the decision-making processes moving forward. This is really the kind of meat of the land use plan, and really it's to evaluate development and redevelopment proposals in a way that achieves your community vision and goals. And so with that, there was some you know, restructuring of those existing land use principles, some modification, and some elimination of some that were perhaps outdated or no longer needed, and then new ones were added. But I think from we categorize them in a way that I think and hopefully will help you all kind of think through these, and again, kind of reflective of what we've been hearing. So the first overall category is the community redevelopment, and that's twofold. One is related to your downtown district and commercial corridors, but also neighborhoods. So again, making sure that both of those are of equal priority. Second category is that sustainability and resiliency, and you know, in planning, that's not just about the trees and the natural elements. So it really is about your services and facilities. It speaks to development, and it speaks to environment. And then lastly, because of its importance, connectivity kind of was its own, and kind of thinking through how do we plan development in a way that enhances connectivity throughout the community. So that all then gets kind of manifested in a physical form, which is in the shape of a future land use plan. And so really this map helps depict the characteristics of what you all hope to see the future of Gladstone's redevelopment look like. Now, keep in mind, this is a 20-year outlook, and this is not to indicate that you all have any plans to go in and make changes to things that exist today. This map is really a physical representation of the vision, of the goals, of the land use policies in a way that is really relevant if and only if parcels become available for redevelopment and development. So I just want to stress that this is a visionary map that you intend to work toward based on kind of the input that we heard. And so again, kind of from a breakdown in numbers, you still are a predominantly single-family residential community, which is something we heard is obviously a strength. But with that, looking for opportunities to expand some of that medium density residential, and where that might be located in a way that supports surrounding commercial, is near services, is near the parks, again, kind of enhancing that connectivity. And then also increasing the amount of mixed use. Really this allows density in very specific places, again, kind of supporting that connectivity. And mutual benefit between commercial and residential uses. And so I think that's shown here very clearly in this blow up of the downtown district. And so the the conversations, we were tasked with kind of helping walk through what do we do about downtown, or what we think is our downtown, and how does that play out. And so throughout the process, with involvement from multiple stakeholder groups, we developed this downtown district. And the intent here is to give a little bit of special review by yourselves and also the Planning Commission when it relates to development and redevelopment of parcels within this newly defined downtown district. And so these boundaries were, like I said, shaped from multiple inputs, but these really will help ensure that compatibility, increase pedestrian connectivity, accommodate that missing middle housing, and really kind of enhance the appearance and strengthen the identity of the Gladstone downtown. And then I'll go through these quickly, but I think another way in which the input that we received has kind of come together in a physical form and from a recommendation standpoint are the notion of character areas. And there's 3 that kind of came from this process. The first is entertainment, going back to that increased desire for amenities and thinking about where you concentrate those. So there's like with like, and also supporting the notion of potential transportation opportunities, jobs, housing, and your downtown. So looking at kind of the North Oak Trafficway and downtown district as an opportunity for that sort of concentration. The other one stems around cultural. And this really, I think, speaks to the importance of the Atkins Johnson Farm and Museum, which we talked about at length in a number of our stakeholder discussions, and thinking about that developable area north of the farm, and thinking through, again, this is just meant to be a rule of thumb, but thinking through the type of development that may have a positive impact and or supportive capacity of the farm in that way. And then lastly, preservation. So tying back to some of what we heard from the engagement in thinking through, a lot of the available, or I should say vacant land, have a number of environmental features or natural resources on them that should provide or should maybe receive an extra level of consideration when development proposals come on board. You'll see that the areas circled, they do have a future land use associated with them, and that is okay. But thinking through what are opportunities to kind of be innovative in terms of how we think about that. And then lastly, you will remember that we have identified 6 redevelopment opportunities through this process, and really these, I think, signal priorities for you all, but also the community in terms of how do we start to achieve some of our vision. Lastly, just kind of speaking to the implementation, which of course is the important part. This is a 20-year vision, but it's always, despite how much we'd like to have a crystal ball and look toward that 20-year, we know that things change. And so this implementation plan, which is outlined in a little bit more detail than, of course, I'm showing here on page 73, really does speak to the importance of alignment of the comp plan with your budget, with your strategic plans, your goal setting, which I know you all will be undertaking soon, and your capital improvement programs, right? There's a really strong importance to make sure that the things outlined in this plan are getting incorporated into those and vice versa. There's language around appropriate level of review of this comprehensive plan, and that does allow it to be a living document. We know things change. We know an opportunity may present itself in 5 years that we don't anticipate today, and so there is opportunity for that down the future. Also, I think, to continue the efforts of community engagement, that will help with the success of implementation, and going back to kind of your cheerleader groups and making sure the community is part of what may happen throughout implementation. And of course, kind of evaluating opportunities for funding, and then making sure that your zoning ordinances are aligned with what's outlined here. And so that will be a process that I know will be probably forthcoming after the comprehensive plan, because it doesn't help when you have competing language in different locations. So the way in which we've structured this in a consumable way is the implementation matrix, and this really does kind of organize those local actions related to the strategies and goals. We worked with the advisory committee to give a little bit of sense of prioritization, not in terms of importance, but in terms of perhaps realistic completion. So you'll see in that matrix there's a division of kind of short-term, medium-term, and long-term projections for achieving these local actions. And then lastly, a number of performance measures which have been identified to help kind of track progress toward your goals. And so those vary, of course, by goal, and most of them are founded in a lot of the data that was pulled to prepare your snapshot. Really kind of making sure that that continues to be a useful document for you all moving forward, and something that is, you know, as long as the data is available, of course, from the census, easily updated and reported back to the community. So that was a lot, and I know we have about, I think, a little over 10 minutes left, but my understanding is that you as a council will have an opportunity over the next week or so to provide detailed comments back to Scott and Austin, and then at your next meeting on November 14th, we'll be considering the support for the comprehensive plan to hopefully then go to the Planning Commission on the 21st for their consideration of adoption. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Scott and open it up to any questions.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Got to have some. Nothing?
It was a lot of work. We appreciate everything that you've done. Thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't really sure myself the vision for what this was going to look like at the end. I'd been involved in the preceding comprehensive plan a million years ago, and it mostly consisted of boring narrative, but still got us what we needed, and that was sort of the state of the art for comprehensive plans. I know you had planned to provide something that was a lot easier to digest and more visual, and we all supported you completely in that, but I didn't really know where we were going to end up from it. And I was just really pleased with what I looked at in this document, that it's, you know, it's so data heavy, yet it's still easily digested. Whether you're a resident here, whether you're a business looking to come to Gladstone and wanting to find out more about it, this really does do a good job of, you know, putting our best foot forward and in a way that we can easily understand. And I really appreciate that, because I like good visuals. I'm just not good at developing them myself. I just know them when I see them, and this turned out really well, and I'm really pleased.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other comments, questions?
It was an awesome process, and you know, at times, like, where are we going? How are we going to get there? And I do just appreciate so much the efforts that you and April spent to make this. You made the process fun. You made it engaging for the stakeholders. It wasn't just dry, boring. They had fun, and at the same time, they really were visionary in terms of thinking ahead and really getting down to figuring out where do we want the city to go. So this is a lot, a lot to try to digest, but it's a beautiful plan, and thank you all for all your efforts to make it happen.
And also just really appreciate your attention to detail. I mean, when we got so much data, so much narrative that gets scrutinized so closely, and I'm one of those guys that's cursed with being able to spot a typo at 50 yards, and I had no red flags go off, and I couldn't tell you the last time I looked at any document and could say that. So just A effort all around.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Other questions, comments? If not, we'll take a short break and convene for our regular meeting at 7:30.
Thank you.
Thank you. Evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the October 24th, 2022 regular meeting of the Gladstone City Council and call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, all of the members of City Council are present. Welcome back, Councilmember Spallo. We have a quorum. Third item, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. There, the colors are present. Those colors. Present on.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As always, we'd like to recognize the Honor Guard from VFW Post 10906, Charlie Cram, Dennis Perkins, Jim Zimmerman, and Stanley Stoner. Thank them. Just learned there's one other thing I can't do anymore is put my hand over my heart. Item 4, next item is approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting. We have a relatively short agenda this evening with 2 proclamations and 1 ordinance. Does anyone have any changes for tonight's agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Item 5 is approval of the minutes from the October 10th, 2022 closed City Council meeting.
Mayor Garnis.
Councilman Mallins.
I move to approve the minutes from the October 10th, 2022 closed City Council meeting as they were presented.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the October 10, 2022 closed City Council meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? The minutes are hereby approved. Item 6 is approval of the minutes from the October 10, 2022 regular City Council meeting.
Mayor Garnis.
Councilman Mallins?
I move to approve the minutes from the October 10th, 2022 regular City Council meeting as they were presented.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Being none, all those in favor of approving the October 10th, 2022 regular City Council meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are hereby approved. Item 7 is approval of the minutes from the October 19th, 2022 closed City Council meeting.
Mayor Garnis.
Councilman Mallon.
I move to approve the minutes from the October 19th, 2022 closed City Council meeting as they were presented.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the October 19th, 2022 closed City Council meeting minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Minutes are hereby approved. We'll move on to item 8, the first of our proclamations. We're honored to have 2 proclamations for the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution tonight. One is for the National American Indian Heritage Month, and one for the National Family Literacy Day. I know we have a number of the members from the William Boydston chapter and guests here this evening. I'm not sure who was able to make it here. I know we had Susan Dowden, Maggie Henderson, Ann Calvert, Jean McHenry, Jim and Judy Croystener, Kay Schaefer, Janice Tillman, Christy Newell, and Judy Mahoney. Just the important ones. Thank you for being here this evening. I think I'm going to go ahead and read both proclamations, and then I'll come down front and we can get photo opportunity and any comments that you'd like to make on either of the proclamations. Proclamation of the Mayor for the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, American Indians Committee. Whereas the history and culture of our great nation has been significantly influenced by American Indians and indigenous peoples, and whereas the contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today, and whereas their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States, and whereas the Native American Awareness Week began in 1976 and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August 1990, designating the month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month. And whereas in honor of National American Indian Heritage Month community celebrations, as well as numerous cultural, artistic, educational, and historical activities have been planned, now therefore I, Bill Garnis, Mayor of the City of Gladstone, Missouri, on behalf of the City Council and residents of Gladstone, Missouri, do hereby proclaim November as National American Indian Heritage Month and urge all our citizens to observe this month with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. Signed this 24th day of October 2022. I also just wanted to add a personal note. As you may know, I was born and raised in South Dakota. My great-grandfather was a Norwegian immigrant who homesteaded in the middle of South Dakota. My grandfather was a baker, and one of the things he did was he baked and delivered bread to the Lower Brule Reservation every week. And so I grew up with a great appreciation for our Native American heritage, and I appreciate the work that the Daughters of the American Revolution do to honor that legacy. So thank you. The next proclamation from the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution is for National Family Literacy Day. Whereas National Family Literacy Day, established by the 103rd Congress in 1994 and now marking its anniversary on November 1st, 2022, highlights the importance of reading and learning for the entire family and emphasizes the impact that parents have on their child's learning. And whereas the day is celebrated across America each year and focuses on special activities and events that showcase the importance of family literacy programs and empowers families and build a nation of readers. And whereas literacy programs across the United States will observe National Family Literacy Day by holding readathons, book drives, workshops, and family activities at schools, libraries, and community centers to encourage literacy. And whereas as many as 1 in 6 adults struggle with reading and writing, and by learning to read, individuals can gain self-respect and confidence and strive toward goals that otherwise would not be achievable. And whereas the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution is a nonprofit, non-political, volunteer women's service organization dedicated to promoting patriotism, preserving American history, and securing America's future through better education for children and adults. Whereas education being one of the cornerstones of the National Society of the Daughters of the American Revolution, William Boydston Chapter is committed to increasing literacy by promoting and supporting literacy programs. Now therefore I, Bill Garnis, Mayor of the City of Gladstone, Missouri, on behalf of the members of the Gladstone City Council and all Gladstone residents, do hereby proclaim November 1st, 2022 as National Family Literacy Day. To underscore the importance of literacy, celebrate the joy of reading, encourage residents to promote literacy by reading together as a family, and to extend deep appreciation to our local librarians, educators, and literacy service providers for their timeless efforts to strengthen the literacy of our children in our community. Signed this 24th day of October 2022. I understand these proclamations will be on display at the Antioch Mid-Continent Library along with educational posters. So thank you very much, and we'll take a brief break for photo opportunity. Any comments?
We've met Tim Foster, we've introduced him to you before. He's a friend of the William Morrison chapter, Elders of the American Revolution, and is himself a Native American. So we are very proud of his proclamation on behalf of the city of Gladstone and for Native Americans.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Just one photo? I think we left them in the city manager's office. I know Becky will get those for me. We're ready. We'll move on to item number 10, communications from the audience. Is there any member of the audience who would like to address the City Council on a matter that is not on this evening's agenda? Please.
I've been up here several times, and I want to come tonight to tell you the City of Gladstone and the council, thank you very much for helping us out on the Airbnbs. We got it straightened out, I hope. I asked him how long they're going to be there, and he says 16 months. So I talked to the couple who signed the contract, and they're going to be there for 1 year. He can't even tell the truth. So I appreciate, and Scott too. He worked hard, you guys did, from the bottom of all of our association over there, helped us, and keep a tight lid on it. Thank you very much for your time.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Any other communications from the audience? If not, we'll move on to communications from City Council. Councilman Smith.
Mayor Garnos, I'm going to say very little because I won't be able to get through it, but I would like to say thank you to Charlene Leslie. She has been just, you know, let's get past the consummate professional part and just say she's a wonderful person. You were very kind to us. Even a couple times might have put you in a tough spot. Wish you all the best, but just, I got to stop now, but thank you.
Councilmember Spallo.
Thank you. So I had the opportunity to attend the Parks and Rec Advisory Board meeting the other evening for Mayor Garnis. And they did have, you know, they have a lot going on in parks. This past Friday night was their big Friday Fright Night event. Close to 600 children, plus their families. So about 1,800 people were out for that event, and it was a beautiful night at Happy Rock Park and well received. So thank you, Justin, for all the work with your staff on doing that. One of the other programs that they highlighted, which I think is fantastic, is their new adult swim lesson program that is being offered now at the Gladstone Community Center. And it's being held on Monday and Wednesday nights, and it started October 17th. So, you know, swimming is, I don't think swimming's, you know, a right, or it is a right. It's not a privilege. And everyone needs to learn how to swim to save their life, even if they're an adult, you know. So kudos for starting that program. And then they talked a little bit about the Mayor's Christmas tree lighting ceremony coming up, which I'm sure we'll have more information about that in time to come. And then all the holiday concerts that will be starting up December 1st at the Community Center, which we all know are very beautiful and really bring some life to the Community Center with some extraordinary talent, including our the symphony will be coming in, members of the symphony. So cool. Good job in scheduling those folks. I'd also like to say a few words to Charlene. So when I was coming up with, you know, a greeting, or, you know, what I'd like to say, the word impact came to mind. And, you know, all of these years you've had such a great impact on Gladstone and the culture here. And you've personally had an impact on me as a professional, and you've been a great mentor to me, and I really appreciate it. But you've been a profound impact to this city, and not just to the employees, but to all of our residents. And for what you have brought, you know, to us, thank you. And congratulations, and well-deserved retirement.
Councilman Mallon.
Thank you, Mayor. Charlene, I ran off your job description here. I thought I would just share with everybody all the responsibilities that you have. It's 5 pages, and just be patient with me. For us here at the City Council, it's going to be an evening of mixed emotions. We're happy for you that you're going to be able to spend time with your family and enjoy your retirement. And then it's sadness for all of us, because you're going to be missed by many of the staff here within the city. Needless to say, you're exceptional in all areas of HR. Honestly, it's going to be hard to find somebody to walk in your shoes and do the job that you've done. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the opportunity on October 16th to participate in the Mid-America Regional Council's Plog-a-thon. It was a trash cleanup day. You were supposed to jog or walk and pick up trash, which I still really don't understand that part of it. But anyway, I was at Oak Grove Park. The city manager was, where were you?
Happy Rock.
Happy Rock, and we had one other location. But it was a beautiful, crisp morning. I had 2 people who joined me at Oak Grove Park, and we had a great time and ended up picking up quite a bit of trash. And so my hope is, if you add up the people that were at all of our venues, that we will establish a group of people who have a passion for this, because both of my volunteers said, I'll be back, let's do this again. So it's a great opportunity for us to develop a group of people in the city who are passionate about our trails and our parks and the way our city looks, and are willing to spend an hour or an hour and a half on a Saturday morning with the right resources to clean up the city. And so I was very pleased that we had the turnout that we did, and I hope that it's just the tip of the iceberg, that we can start something new. So thank you, Justin, for organizing all of that. I also wanted to publicly recognize and thank Charlene for her remarkable service to this city. You told me that this was going to be hard to get through. Whether navigating the intricacies of salary plans, negotiating with union representatives, dealing with employee insurance plans, negotiating legal settlements, as Councilman Mallon said, your list of responsibilities is remarkable and goes on and on. Whether it's volunteering at city events, which are always there, you have, and everything else that rises to the plate of HR, which has always amazed me. You have been a steady, unifying force for this city, and you have performed your duties with energy, professionalism, always grace, and ultimate kindness. We will so very much miss you. We're so excited for you to be able to spend time with your family, but know that this family will miss you deeply.
Thank you very much for those comments. Since our last council meeting, I had the privilege of attending the Northland Regional Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors meeting. Their chamber office is going to be moving by the end of this month from the strip mall that's at Englewood and 169 to another location that I don't believe has been secured yet. Yeah, they're going to be temporarily housed at the Argosy until they find something more permanent. It was nice that the Argosy stepped forward, and I think the board meetings are going to be held at the City Hall in Riverside, so it was nice that Mayor Rose could step forward and offer her nice facilities. I think someday soon we'll be able to do the same. I would also want to mention that between now and our next council meeting, we have a general election on Tuesday, November 8th. I would strongly encourage our residents to vote and to educate themselves on the issues on the ballot. I try to stay fairly well informed, and I did not realize that Gladstone residents were going to have 6 questions on the ballot this year. 5 involving our state constitution and 1 proposition involving Clay County. So you're going to want to study up on those issues before heading to the ballot box, and strongly encourage everyone to vote. If you don't do it for yourself, do it for Mr. Oldebecken. Item 12, communications from the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 things. Half-price brush drop-off is November 4th through 6th from 8 to 5 at the Public Works facility just north of Happy Rock Park. So I hope everybody takes advantage of that. And then I need to know, because my back's to her, did she cry?
We're all too old, we can't see that part.
Well, Charlene from the city administration, I guess, or from Scott, there'll be another time for the organization to express our appreciation for your years of service. For the time being, I would say on behalf of the leadership team, the employees, and the entire community, you have certainly left the place better and especially more compassionate than you found it. You'll be missed.
She's holding up pretty well.
Yeah, wait till next week.
We'll move on to item 13, the consent agenda. Madam Clerk, would you please explain and read the consent agenda?
A consent agenda allows the City Council to consider and approve routine items of business without discussion. Any member of the City Council, the city staff, or the public may request removal of any item from the consent agenda and request that it be considered under the regular agenda if discussion or debate of the item is desired. Items not removed from the consent agenda will stand approved upon motion by any council member, second and unanimous vote to approve the consent agenda as published or modified. Consent agenda. Consider special event permit. North Kansas City School District, Northland Early Education Center Fall Event, Thursday, October 27th, 2022, 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock p.m. at Linden Square. Consider special event permit. Gallery Portraiture Incorporated is sponsoring a fundraiser for Lucky 13 Rescue Saturday, October 22nd, 2022, 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock p.m. at Oak Grove Park. Resolution R-22-54, a resolution authorizing acceptance of work under contract with Gunter Construction Company for the Northeast 76th Street improvements, North Oak Traffic Way to North Brooklyn, and authorizing final payment in the amount of $37,583.04 for project TE-1818. Consider financial report for 3 months ending September 30th, 2022.
Thank you. Does any member of the audience request removal of any item from the consent agenda for discussion? City Council? City Manager?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
Mayor Gordon.
Councilmember Spavo.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as listed. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as listed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Consent agenda is approved. We'll move on with our one regular agenda item, the first reading of Bill number 22-37, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement between the city of Gladstone and the Mid-America Regional Council, MARC, Solid Waste Management District for the 2023 Regional Household Hazardous Waste Collection Program in the amount of $29,718.70. Is there a motion?
Mayor Garnes.
Councilman Mallons.
I move to place Bill number 22-37 on its first reading.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to place Bill number 22-37 on its first reading. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of placing Bill number 22-37 on its first reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
First reading, Bill number 22-37, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Gladstone and the Mid-America Regional Council, MARC, Solid Waste Management District for the 2023 Regional Household Hazardous Waste Collection Program in the amount of $29,718.70.
Mayor Garnes.
Councilman Mallon.
I move to accept the first reading of Bill number 22-37, waive the rule and place the bill on its second and final reading.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to accept the first reading of Bill number 22-37, waive the rule and place the bill on its second and final reading. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of placing Bill number 22-37 on its second and final reading, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Madam Clerk, please read the bill.
Second reading, Bill number 22-37, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Gladstone and the Mid-America Regional Council, MARC, Solid Waste Management District for the 2023 Regional Household Hazardous Waste Collection Program in the amount of $29,718.70.
Mayor Garnes.
Councilman Mallon.
I move to accept the second and final reading of Bill number 22-37 and enact it as ordinance number 4.614.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the second and final reading of Bill number 22-37 and enact the bill as ordinance number 4.614. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Spallo?
Aye.
Councilman Mallon?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Garnes.
Aye. Bill number 22-37 stands enacted as ordinance number 4.614. Item 15, other business. Is there any other business for City Council this evening? Before we adjourn, I'd like to entertain a motion to go back into closed executive session for the same issues that are on our agenda for tonight, those being for Missouri Revised Statute Open Meeting Act Exemption 610.021 Sub 3 personnel. Is there a motion?
Mayor Garnes.
Councilman Smith.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to go back into closed executive session. Any discussion? None. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Spallo?
Aye.
Councilman Mallon?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Garnes.
Aye. We'll reconvene in closed executive session, and we will convene our next regular meeting of the City Council in 3 weeks on November 14th.